Then I will answer the third question Liberation has raised in this interview. It is what role have US and European governments played in the development of the crisis, and what should they do now in the face of the crisis? I think which is very relevant to a European audience here. So I will answer this question. First, I will answer what is the impact of the economic sphere through the involvement of the US and European regimes. Fundamentally, as far as you know, this is an economic crisis. So it has been growing for last few decades and accelerated after 2000. So role of the US and EU governments and international financial institutions is a major cause of the present crisis. It pushed Sri Lanka for last 5 decades to follow this suicidal neoliberal economic agenda. They discourage local manufacturing industry, encourage abandoning local agriculture, encourage and push privatization of national industries, banks, education, health, and almost everything hailing the policy of international borrowings, etc. So the results were that our import expense raised to 22 billion US dollars and exports limited to 12 billion US dollars, so trade deficit became almost double. Out of Sri Lanka's foreign debt, 47% are from international financial institutions like Rockwood's International and including some British fund management companies. So that is how we ended up like this. So then I will explain the impact of US and EU governments in political sphere of Sri Lanka. So USA and EU governments have been openly supporting almost all the regimes of the country, with some fluctuations, of course, who brought these disasters to Sri Lanka. Specifically, USA and EU governments never opposed the main corrupt politicians. Many of them are citizens of these countries, and they do have properties in those countries. To give some examples, President Gotabaya and his brother Basil and their families are living in USA, and they have a lot of wealth in these countries, but these governments have never questioned about it. When President Gotabaya was contesting the presidential elections, it's a fact that he was a citizen of USA, which is a total violation of Sri Lankan constitution. But even after repeated requests which were made, US government never revealed about his US citizenship. They allowed him to be elected. In recent revelations of Pandora Papers, Panama Papers, those countries are much connected to USA and some EU countries like United Kingdom, where Rajapaksha's names are categorically mentioned in Pandora Papers about wealth of 150 million US dollars. But those governments did nothing. Even recent UK court ruling on France's Airbus scandal, Rajapaksha's taking of $2 million exposed, but did nothing. During Ranil Wickremesinghe's earlier regime from 2015 to 2019, even after the disgusting central bank bond scam of looting more than 16 billion Sri Lankan rupees, US consultancy firms, US government and non-governmental agencies fully worked with that regime without questioning of this daylight robbery. While protecting corrupt regimes and weakening economy, especially USA forced to sign many military agreements like SOFA, AXA, by twisting arms of these corrupt politicians, some of them whom are citizens or who having properties in those countries. And USA forced government of Sri Lanka to sign largest ever privatization agreement of Sri Lankan energy sector, that is LNG plant to New Fortress Energy Company of USA, during the crisis in last June 2021 without any transparency. All those governments were like mentors and guardians for Sri Lankan regimes who destroyed this country. But due to the leadership role of the anti-imperialist left movement in the country, these big powers were not able to buy the present struggle, and then to push Sri Lanka to a failed state level. And finally, you had asked what those governments can do now. We have to insist, and we want to emphasize now this point, that is, those governments must at least now respect the Sri Lanka sovereignty and wipe off foreign debt 22% from World Bank like institutions. Support to recover the stolen assets by the politicos and their business henchmen who are citizens or residents of Western countries, and bring them to justice and bring them into the justice. And Sri Lankan people need true solidarity from all world governments.